They never announce it. No warning signs. No honest explanation. But the moment you step into an airport, something changes. You may think you are simply beginning a trip heading toward a gate looking for a coffee, or charging your phone before boarding. But in reality, you have entered a system designed to influence you from the very first minute. Every light above you. Every winding corridor ahead of you. Every store placed in your path. Even every place you are forced to sit and wait may be doing far more than serving your comfort. And in 2026, these tactics have become sharper, quieter, and far more effective than most travelers realize. For senior travelers especially, the pressure is even greater. Fatigue sets in faster. Confusion becomes more costly. One small decision made in the wrong moment can mean wasted money, added stress, or a much harder trip than it needed to be. In today's video, we're uncovering 11 hidden airport secrets. The travel industry would rather you never fully understand strategies that can affect your spending, your choices, and even your peace of mind without you noticing it at all. So stay with me, because once you see what is really happening behind the scenes, you may never walk through an airport the same way again. Number 1. The relaxation trap. Have you ever noticed how the area near your boarding gate often feels strangely calm compared to the rest of the airport? The lights seem softer. The ceilings feel lower. The carpet looks thicker, quieter, almost comforting. After the noise of check-in security lines and crowded terminals, that space can feel like a reward. A place where your body finally lets go of its tension. But that feeling may not be there for your benefit. In many airports, this atmosphere is carefully designed to lower your guard. The goal is not simply to help you rest. It is to make you more likely to wander, browse, and spend. When people begin to relax, they often stop questioning small purchases. A snack becomes acceptable. A souvenir feels harmless. An overpriced item suddenly seems easier to justify. And for older travelers, this effect can be even stronger. Travel fatigue wears down focus. Long walks, noise, stress, and waiting all take a toll. By the time you reach the gate, your defenses are lower, and that is exactly when impulse spending becomes easier. So before you settle into that cozy gate area, pause for a moment. Ask yourself what you truly need before you start looking around. Because sometimes that comfortable space is not meant to protect your peace. It is meant to quietly empty your wallet. Number 2. The Golden Walk Scam. Most travelers assume airports are confusing simply because they are large, but often that confusion is not accidental. Have you ever noticed that getting from security to your gate rarely feels direct? Instead of a clear, simple path, you are led through long hallways, forced turns, and endless rows of shops that seem impossible to avoid. It can feel like poor design. In reality, it is often very deliberate. Airports understand that the longer you walk past stores, the more likely you are to spend money. Every detour, every curve, every unnecessary stretch of terminal space can serve one purpose: placing as many temptations in front of you as possible before you reach your gate. For the airport, that walk is not wasted space. It is a sales machine. For senior travelers, this tactic feels even more frustrating. Those extra steps are not just annoying, they can mean real physical strain. Tired legs, aching knees, shortness of breath, and less energy before the flight even begins. What looks like a normal terminal route can become an exhausting obstacle course. That is why it helps to study the terminal map before you travel. In some airports, there are shorter connector paths, shuttle options, or more direct routes that most passengers never think to ask about. Sometimes, simply asking airport staff for the fastest way to your gate can save you time and energy. Because the truth is, the airport should not control your path more than necessary. The more informed you are, the less likely you are to be led exactly where they want you to go. Number 3. The automated labyrinth. The moment your suitcase disappears behind the check-in counter, it enters a world you can no longer see. Most travelers assume that once a bag is checked, it simply moves through the system and arrives where it should. But in 2026, that journey is handled more and more by automation scanners and fast-moving routing systems that are built for speed, not for compassion. And when something goes wrong, there is often no human eye catching the mistake in time. A single old baggage sticker left on your suitcase can become a serious problem. To a machine, that outdated barcode is not harmless. It can become confusing data. And in the wrong moment, that confusion can send your luggage in the wrong direction while you are flying somewhere else entirely. For older travelers, that risk can be much more than an inconvenience. A lost bag may not just contain clothes. It may carry medication, important documents, medical devices, or personal items that make the journey manageable. When that bag disappears, the stress becomes immediate and deeply personal. That is why small precautions matter. Take a clear photo of your suitcase before handing it over. Remove every old tag or sticker from past trips. And if possible, place a tracker inside your luggage so you have your own way of following it if the airline cannot. Because once your bag enters that automated maze, hope is not enough. Preparation is what gives you control. Number 4. The altitude nutrition mystery. Most people judge airplane food by its taste, but the real problem often goes much deeper than flavor. Airlines plan their meals far in advance, and behind every tray table meal is a quiet battle over cost. Small ingredients are removed, portions are adjusted, and quality is often reduced in ways most passengers never notice. What looks like a simple meal is usually the result of efficiency budgeting and mass production far more than care. But the bigger issue happens in the air itself. At cruising altitude, your sense of taste becomes weaker. Food tastes duller, flatter, less satisfying than it would on the ground. To compensate for that, airlines often rely more heavily on salt, sugar, and other strong flavor boosters. That may make the meal seem more appealing for a few minutes, but it can create real discomfort during a long flight. For senior travelers, this matters even more. Extra sodium can contribute to swelling, dehydration, and added strain on the body, especially during hours of sitting in dry cabin air. What seems like a harmless in-flight meal can leave you feeling far worse by the time you land. That is why it helps to think ahead. Bringing your own simple, lower-sodium snacks can give you more control over how you feel in the air. Because when it comes to airline food, the goal is not always your well-being. Sometimes it is simply to serve the system at the lowest cost possible. Number 5. The chemical hand swab. Most travelers do not think twice when a TSA agent asks to swab their hands. It feels quick, routine, harmless. But that small white cloth is not checking for cleanliness. It is searching for microscopic traces of chemicals that security systems associate with explosive materials. And the troubling part is this: you do not need to be carrying anything dangerous to trigger concern. Innocent everyday contact can sometimes leave behind residue that machines do not fully understand. Something as ordinary as gardening products, certain lotions, or contact with household chemicals may be enough to create suspicion. And once that happens, a simple airport screening can suddenly become much more stressful. For senior travelers, this kind of disruption can be especially overwhelming. A false alarm does not just cost time. It can create confusion, embarrassment, and anxiety at exactly the moment when calm matters most. One unexpected secondary screening can throw off your rhythm for the rest of the trip. That is why a little preparation can go a long way. Before heading to the airport, wash your hands thoroughly and avoid applying heavy creams or unfamiliar products right before security. It may seem like a small step, but sometimes small steps are what keep a normal travel day from turning into an exhausting ordeal. Because in modern airport security, even ordinary things can be misunderstood, and the traveler pays the price for that misunderstanding. Number 6. The hidden lounge access. Many travelers still believe airport lounges are only for the wealthy, the elite, or the people who fly so often they practically live in airports. That is exactly what the industry wants you to believe. Because as long as you assume lounges are out of reach, you stay in the crowded gate area. You sit in the noise, the hard chairs, the endless announcements, and the constant pressure to spend money in the shops around you. But in 2026, that old barrier is not as solid as it used to be. More and more airports now offer day passes that can cost less than a disappointing airport meal. And in many cases, travelers already have access without realizing it. Some credit cards include lounge benefits, sometimes even cards people do not consider premium at all. That means a quieter space, a more comfortable seat, free drinks, and in some places even a shower or a calm corner to recharge before boarding. For senior travelers, this can make a real difference. A peaceful waiting area is not a luxury when you are dealing with fatigue, long layovers, or the stress of a busy terminal. It can change the entire tone of the trip. So before your next flight, check what your card or ticket may already include. Because sometimes the comfort you thought was reserved for someone else is something you have already paid for without ever being told. Number 7. The juice-jacking threat. That public USB charging station may look like a simple convenience, but sometimes convenience is exactly how the risk begins. Airports know travelers arrive with low batteries, long layovers, and rising anxiety. When your phone is about to die, a free charging port can feel like a lifesaver, but not every port is as harmless as it appears. Some cybersecurity experts have warned that public USB connections can carry more than electricity. In the wrong situation, they may also open a path for data theft or malicious software. This is what people refer to as juice jacking. For senior travelers, the danger can be even more serious. Phones today do not just hold family photos or contact lists. They carry banking apps, personal messages, medical information, travel documents, passwords, and private accounts. One careless charge in the wrong place can expose far more than most people realize. That is why it is safer to use a regular wall outlet with your own charger whenever possible. And if you must use a public USB port, a small USB data blocker can add an extra layer of protection by allowing power through while blocking the data connection. Because at the airport, even a free charge can come with a hidden price. And in 2026, protecting your battery should never mean risking your privacy. Number 8. The schedule padding illusion. Have you ever landed earlier than expected and felt grateful as if the airline had done an especially good job? That feeling may not tell the full story. Airlines know that passengers pay close attention to whether a flight is on time. But one of the easiest ways to appear reliable is not always to operate more efficiently. Sometimes it is simply to build extra time into the schedule from the very beginning. A trip that usually takes 2 hours may be listed as taking much longer, giving the airline more room to recover from delays while still appearing punctual. To the passenger, it feels like a success. To the airline, it can help protect performance numbers and reduce the pressure that comes with strict delay statistics. For senior travelers, this matters more than it may seem. If you believe an airline is consistently early, you may trust tight connections or make planning decisions based on a false sense of efficiency. But a flight that looks impressively punctual may simply be operating inside a padded schedule. That is why it helps to look beyond the arrival time on one trip and pay attention to patterns. The goal is not to admire the illusion of speed. It is to understand how much of that good performance may have been built into the clock before the plane ever left the ground. Because in air travel, what looks like efficiency is not always honesty. Number 9. The captive market markup. Once you pass through security, your choices become much smaller. And that is exactly why prices suddenly feel so unreasonable. A bottle of water costs far more than it should. A simple sandwich feels overpriced. A basic snack can seem almost insulting once you see the total. Most travelers notice it, but few stop to think about why it happens so consistently. The answer is simple. Once you are inside the airport, especially beyond the checkpoint, you are in a place where convenience has replaced competition. The airport knows you are tired. It knows you are hungry. It knows you may have no time, no energy, and no other option. That is what makes the system so effective. It turns ordinary needs into expensive purchases because the traveler is trapped in the moment. For senior travelers, this can feel even more frustrating. Many are trying to travel wisely, stay within a budget, and avoid unnecessary spending. But when every small item is marked up simply because you have nowhere else to go, even a short delay at the gate can become needlessly costly. That is why preparation matters more than people think. Bringing a simple snack from home, or even planning ahead with a bottle of water, purchased before reaching the most expensive part of the terminal, can save both money and irritation. Because the less the airport controls your needs, the less power it has over your wallet. And in a place built around pressure, that small bit of control matters. Number 10. The ghost flight reality. Sometimes a flight feels strangely quiet from the moment you board. Rows are half empty. Overhead bins are barely full. The cabin feels calmer than expected, and you may find yourself wondering why the airline is operating the flight at all. In some cases, that question has a very uncomfortable answer. Not every flight exists purely because of passenger demand. Some routes are maintained because airlines need to protect valuable takeoff and landing slots at major airports. If they stop operating certain flights, they risk losing those rights. So even when demand is weak, the plane may still fly. For the industry, that is a strategy. For the traveler, it reveals something important about how the system really works. It can feel wasteful, even absurd. But for senior travelers, there is also a practical side to understanding it. A lightly filled cabin may offer more space, a quieter atmosphere, and sometimes a more comfortable experience than you expected. In that moment, what looks like a strange decision by the airline can become a rare advantage for the passenger. If you ever find yourself on a nearly empty flight, make the most of it where the rules allow. Settle in, enjoy the calmer environment, and appreciate the breathing room. Because while the airline may be flying to protect its position, you still deserve to protect your comfort. And sometimes, knowing why something happens makes the experience feel a little less mysterious and a little more manageable. Number 11. Decoding the boarding pass. Most travelers glance at their boarding pass for only a few seconds. They check the gate. They check the seat. Maybe the boarding time. And then they put it away, assuming it is nothing more than a basic entry ticket to the plane. But that small document often reveals far more than people realize. Your boarding pass is filled with codes that quietly describe the structure of your trip. The airline code identifies the carrier, while certain fare class letters can signal what type of ticket you purchased and what level of service or flexibility may come with it. To the airline, those details are not random. They help define how your journey is managed from start to finish. For senior travelers, understanding even a little of that information can be surprisingly helpful. It gives you a better sense of what to expect where you may have options and how to move through the airport with more confidence. Even seat location can matter more than people think. Sitting closer to the front can sometimes make deplaning faster, reduce the stress of tight connections, and help you move through a busy terminal with less delay. That may sound like a small advantage, but in air travel, small advantages can make a big difference. A few saved minutes can mean the difference between reaching your next gate calmly or arriving there under pressure. Because the boarding pass is not just a seat assignment. It is a map of how your trip is likely to unfold. And the more you understand it, the less likely you are to move through the airport blindly. Air travel in 2026 is no longer just about boarding a plane and reaching your destination. It is about moving through a system that often knows exactly how to pressure you before you even realize it. The lighting, the layout, the waiting areas, the prices, the routines, even the things that seem harmless or convenient. All of it can shape your choices in ways most travelers never stop to question. But now you know better. And once you understand what is really happening, you are no longer just another passenger being guided, delayed, distracted, and drained. You become a smarter traveler, a more prepared traveler, a traveler who sees the pressure before it works. So now I want to hear from you. Which of these airport traps have you experienced yourself? Was it the overpriced food, the exhausting walk through endless shops, the stress of security, or something else that caught you off guard? Leave your experience in the comments because your story may help someone else avoid the same mistake on their next trip. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and join this community of travelers who want to fly with more confidence, more awareness, and a lot less stress. And stay with us, because in the next video, we're uncovering another side of modern travel that many passengers still do not see coming. Fly smarter, stay calmer, and never walk into the airport unprepared again.